I want to welcome you once again to this very interesting moment in our online facilitation exercise. Today, in this our course, Introduction to Pedology and Soil Classification. Today we'll be looking at the Nigerian soils. Of course, you could see in the diagram, the Nigerian map that you're seeing there. You see different colors have been used to be able to separate the different soil types we have in Nigeria. So you can see that it is very, very important that we actually understand the kind of soil that we have in Nigeria. Of course, the knowledge of the type of soil in an area will help agriculturists, will help policy makers, even extension agents be able to advise farmers properly. So it is very, very important that we actually understand the type of soils we have in Nigeria. Nigeria is situated within the tropical zones. When we talk about the tropics, it's an area that is located. We said that it has a latitude that is between 4 degrees Celsius and 14 degrees Celsius, 4 degrees and 14 degrees north. 14 degrees north of the equator, as well as longitude 3 and 15 degrees east. Now, Nigeria is bounded on the west by the Republic of Benin. To the north, Niger, and to the east, Cameroon, and to the south, we have the Atlantic Ocean. So at the end of this unit, you should be able to list the types of soil we have in Nigeria, as well as also be able to state the nature of this Nigerian. So Nigeria has a total landmass of about 924,000 kilometers square, because the population of Nigeria is far above 200 million. Physiographically, the country has several extensive plateaus. Those are highlands. Major plateau surface are the Jos Plateau, and the North Central High Plains. So the coastal areas are usually covered by soft rock, which are prominent along the Niger Delta and even Niger Benue Trough and Lake Chad basins. So the high plateau is underlain by basement complex and volcanic rocks. Example of the volcanic hills are the remains of extinct volcanoes as seen in Jos of Bill Plateau, as well as the eastern borderland. So the craters created by these volcanoes are well preserved, and several of them contained crater lakes. So the Mount Cameroon volcano is still active on the eastern border of Nigeria. Activity during which several lives were lost in 1989. So the lowland areas are composed of sedimentary rocks, as well as cover the Sokoto Plains, Chad, Niger Benue Trough, as well as western areas of Nigeria, southeastern Nigeria, and coastal margins and swamp. So the major rivers of Nigeria are found in this lowland areas. Now, Nigeria has two major rivers. We have the Niger River, after which the country is named. We also have the River. So these two rivers, they meet at the Lokoja confluence and enter the Gulf of Guinea through a network of creeks and its tributaries, which form the Niger Delta. There are, however, a few other tributary rivers which drain into the Niger-Benue Trough, Lake Chad. These include the Sokoto River, the Kaduna River, the Anambra River, the Gongola, the Hadejia, Jama, and the Yobe River. The basins of this major river and their tributaries constitute the drainage pattern of the entire country. Other major rivers, example, are the Cross, River Cross, from which Cross River State was named. We have Imo River, we have Ogun River, we have Osun River, we have Benin River, we have Kwaibo. It is all empty directly into the Atlantic Ocean. So the majority of small rivers are seasonal. So the climate that determines the different ecological zones is influenced by two wind systems. The wind that enters the country through the southwestern western region, which comes with rainfall, as well as the northwestern wind that blows through the Sahara Desert, and that brings the dry and dusty Harmattan wind that is experienced in the country. So, according to Guinea 1967 and Iloije 1980, Nigeria, and indeed all the West African countries which experience similar weather conditions, can be said to have four main climatic zones. Nigeria has four main climatic zones. One being the equatorial climate, which extends from the coast about 150 kilometers inland. Equatorial climate extends from the coast about 150 kilometers inland. We have rainfall, yes. In this zone, it's a zone of rainfall that is a bit high, usually from 1,500 to 3,000 millimeters per annum. It's an average temperature of about 17 to 24 degrees Celsius, and also relative humidity that ranges between 60 to 90%. This region has two seasons: wet season, which extends from March to October, and dry season from November to March. Now, this it has the Port Harcourt and the Lagos regions are also found in this area that to be the equatorial climatic zone. Remember that this zone stretches for about 100 kilometers inland from the Atlantic Ocean. All of that. And of course, you can see this area because they are also a bit closer to the ocean region. Now you see we have some relatively high rainfall that is experienced in that area. About 3,000 millimeters rainfall is relatively high, although we have regions that are also higher than this. Now, the B part, number 2, after this equatorial climate, the tropical hinterland, which stretches about 150 to 240 kilometers northwards from the coast. And of course, this region have a lower rainfall compared to the equatorial climatic region. And of course, here we have just about 1,500 to 1,500 millimeters rainfall. And the temperature is, it ranges from 21 to 25 degrees Celsius. And the relative humidity here is lower, within 50 to 80%. So this region has a longer dry season, of sometimes 4 to 5 months compared with the equatorial zone, which lasts from October to April. And examples of this region include Ibadan and Enugu. So now, after this tropical hinterland, we have the tropical continental. This tropical continental falls into the Sudano-Sahelian vegetation zone, and it has rainfall of 250 to 1,000 millimeters. 250 to 1,000 millimeters. It's quite low, and we have temperature that is a bit higher than what we've recorded or what we record in the other zones, which is about 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. But we also have lower night temperature, especially during the harmattan, and the low relative humidity of about 20 to 40%. So the characteristics dry, hot harmattan, harmattan wind may last from October to May. An example of this area are found in Sokoto, in Kano, in Maiduguri, and in Yola. Those are the areas. Of course, this area can be very cold during the harmattan season, and the cold period stretches for quite some time. Of course, the regions within this area hardly experience rainfall till around June. But if you are in the southern Nigeria, say, for instance, you are around the southwest or the south-south or the southeast, you now realize that as from middle of the March in some years, rainfall would have started, or even early March. But in this region we are talking about, these tropical continental regions, the rainfall there, they are quite low. And the rainfall there for the whole year might just be about 250 to 1,000 millimeters in their rain gauge. So you now realize that the rainfall here is a bit low. Part of the reason why the rainfall here is low is because of also the low humidity. Remember that rainfall is a function of how humid the region is. So higher humidity results to higher rainfall. So if the humidity is just about 40%, obviously the rainfall there will likely not be high. That is why we are experiencing more higher temperature in those areas. You are around Kano this time around, you are around Maiduguri this time around, you are around Sokoto this time around, you can testify the fact that the weather is extremely hot because of the very high temperature that is prevalent in those areas. Now, the D part, the D climate is the mountain or the plateau type climate, and is limited to the highland areas with a high annual rainfall of about 1,400 to 4,000 millimeters. Now, you may be shocked. Why do we have this kind of rainfall? You can see the range is a bit high the range is a bit, high, in that it spreads from 1,400 to as high as 4,000. The weather in this area is a bit unpredictable. It's a highland. So it's a highland. Remember, it also have relative low temperature of about 5 to 20 degrees Celsius, and the high humidity. The humidity also vary quite long high, because the humidity could be 30. It could also rise to as high as 90%. So example is the Jos Plateau region. Jos, those are the plateau regions of the country. And of course, those that stay around Jos see that the rainfall there in most cases are unpredictable. You see hailstone falling there in those areas because of the high nature of such area. So in general, rainfall, temperature, and humidity have the following trends. The temperature is usually high. We're talking about the climate of Nigeria now. The temperature is usually high, with an average of about 25 degrees Celsius, and increase as one moves northwards. Yes, the temperature increase as you move northwards, although variations are influenced by seasons and the latitude, while the rainfall and the humidity increase towards the coastal region. The temperature increase towards the north as you move towards the north. However, the humidity rather increase as you move towards the south. The implication of that is simply that the regions, these two extreme regions, are almost opposite to each other because of their climatic conditions. So recent years have seen a general trend of increasing drought condition compared with the weather condition of the 1930s to the late 40s, according to Oguntoyinbo 1983. So there was a notable drought period between 1968 and 1973, and this led to an upsurge of water conservation strategies. Now, the severity of the harmattan is has been attributed to the encroaching desert due to the deforestation as a result of human activities, bush burning, human settlement, development, logging or felling of firewood, and all of that. Now, you can know that probably part of the reason why towards southwards, why the weather there is not as extreme in terms of the cold nature, the harmattan nature, why it's not as high as it is in the north, is because of probably the presence of the forest nature within the southern part of the country. There is some presence of trees, and those trees, one of the things those trees do is that during the day they absorb the heat and they transfer them to the soil, and they kind of create a kind of they make the soil to be able to conduct this heat and also be able to preserve it and all of that because of the presence of these trees, the land. So however, if there are no trees, if there's a kind of deforestation arising from desert encroachment that is arising due to deforestation now, you now realize that some of those heat that actually heat up the soil during the day, you now realize that just a matter of time in the night, all of them would have quickly evaporated because there are no trees in most of these regions in the northern part of the country. So leading to very rapid evaporation of this heat that actually attend to the soil. So these are part of the reasons why the harmattan is more severe in the north, because there are no trees that easily absorb this heat and keep them for future use, or probably for use in the night. And we said that in those areas, because originally there are no much trees originally. There are no much trees in those areas. And because there are no much trees, it's these things will quickly evaporate. There's evaporation taking place fast. Then also hunting for wood, hunting for trees to be able to use for as fuel are also a challenge. Human settlement too have also led to felling of some trees around some of these regions. Human settlement have also led to all of that, logging and all of that, creating wood that could be used for roofing of houses, as well as firewood by households in those regions. So there is also usually a drop in humidity, causing dryness, coldness, and a dusty and hazy atmosphere. Especially in the northern Nigeria, there is very low humidity in those areas. And because of this dropping in humidity, there is dryness. Rainfall is a product of humidity. Rainfall is a product of humidity. If the humidity in an area is usually high, as high as 80–90%, it affects the rainfall in those areas. It causes rainfall to be more experienced in those areas. However, if the humidity in a particular area is very low, and it simply means that the rainfall in those areas will be likely be very low. And what does it translate to? You begin to experience a haziness. You see dusty environment everywhere in those areas, also leading to cold. The unpleasant experience which results from a severe harmattan include thick deposit of dust on buildings and furniture, and increased incidence of conjunctivitis, as well as cracking of human leaves due to dryness. Yes, these are some of the things we see most often, especially those who are within the northern region. See no matter how you lock your house, no matter the environment you stay, anytime you open it, you see that dust still find their way inside. You still see that you need to always keep clean and keep clean everywhere because of the presence of dust on buildings, on your furnitures, on your household wares, and all of that. You experience very severe situation in those areas as a result of the dusty and the hazy environment in that area. Now, what are the vegetation, the land use, and the population of Nigeria? What can we say are the vegetation of Nigeria? What's the land use and all of that? So climate, particularly rainfall, has an important influence on the distribution of the vegetation in Nigeria. So there are 10 main vegetation zones in Nigeria according to UDO 1970. So from there, we begin to talk about areas like the Sahel. The Sahel are those people who stay around Niger area, around Niger. You stay around those very far places that are almost, around Niger, around Chad. Those are the Sahelian vegetation, or is what you experience there. That simply talks about it talks about a kind of this dry environment. From there, you can stand in a place and you'll be seeing over 10 to 20 kilometers and you won't see anything. You just keep seeing until where it appears as if the heavens actually met the earth. Because of what? Because of lack of vegetation and all of that. All you see in those areas is just bare land that stretches for a very long and very far distance. And most of those areas are the arid regions. They are the desert regions of this country. So the most extreme desert region of Nigeria is the Sahel region. And also after the Sahel, we now have close to that, which is the Sudan region, and also the Northern Guinea zones. The Sudan and the Northern Guinea zones. So it's just a little separation from the Sahel, then you get to the Sudan and the Northern Guinea zones. Well, after that, you now get to the Jos Plateau and the mountain forest and the grassland. So after that, you now have the rainforest. The rainforest is most of the areas that we have around the southeast Nigeria. Yes, southeast, south, some of those areas are the rainforest, because you experience some high level of rainfalls in those areas. We also have the oil palm bush, the southern Guinea zones. We have the swamp and the mangrove forest. Of course, oil palm bush are mostly, you see palm trees, very tall palm trees in those areas. They are also in the southern part. They are also in the rainforest part, so to say. So you see it's around those areas. Then after, you now have the southern Guinea zone. Southern Guinea zone also have a bit of the combination of the rainforest and the oil palm bush. Then after that, you now have the swamp. Most of the rice farming taking place in the southern Nigeria are swamp rice, because there are so many swamp regions or swampy areas in which only crops that can be grown there are the crops that will be adapted to this swampy environment. And of course, a few other crops also utilize this swampy environment, such as the vegetables and the rest of them. After which, you now have what we call the mangrove forest. The mangrove forests are a combination of swamp as well as trees and all of that growing there. Thereby, you experience some kind of root of trees and all of that, or root of shrubs, be embedded inside the swampy soils, in addition with the presence of moisture or water in those areas. So these major zones have different vegetation types, which can be further subdivided into coastal forest and mangrove, deltaic swamp forest, as well as swamp forest and wooded savanna, secondary forest, mixed leguminous, wooded savanna, and so on and so forth. So we have the isobellina savanna, Afcelia savanna, and the semi-deciduous forest. Plateau grass savanna, mixed Cretaceous woodland, as well as wooded savanna, mixed wooded savanna, and the floodplain complex. Sorghum grass savanna, bouquet African savanna, wooded tropical steppes, and most land forests. When we talk about wooded tropical steppes, steppes are just a perfect kind of land because of the combination of the textural composition of such soils. It has adequate clay, sand, seed, as well as enough organic matter in them that can actually make for a good growth of crops when they are utilized for that. Now, an estimate of about 68 million hectares of land is utilized for farming. About estimate of about 68 million hectares of land is utilized for farming, with an average of 2 hectares per farming family. So you now see that because of the different vegetation and the climatic condition, as well as socio-cultural base, each ecological zone has some degree of specialization in farming system, or types of crops, and as well as animals that are reared in such region. So the crop farming system is mainly the traditional rain-fed agriculture, contributing about 95% of the farming activity, while mechanized and irrigated agriculture use about 5% of the cultivated land. So there are 6 main farming patterns. There are 6 main farming patterns in Nigeria, including the shifting cultivation, although some of these things no longer even exist now. When we talk about the shifting cultivation, whereby you farm for some time, you now leave the area, you relocate to another region, and you farm. Then after some time, you come back to this place and all of that. The reason is because land is gradually becoming very scarce now. So why some households quickly retain wherever they have and they have been using for farming, they quickly retain it. Because if you don't do that, some other people may even come and begin to claim those land. So we have the sedentary and the permanent cultivation. Yes, a situation whereby you keep subjecting a particular land into cultivation from year to year. And in most cases, you now realize that farmers resort to using fertilizer to sustain the fertility of such soils, because if you do not resuscitate this soil's fertility, the time will come that the nutrient composition of these soils would have become so degraded that you won't be able to get maximum yield from those soils. So the use of fertilizer becomes so important in some of these regions. We have terraced agriculture, we have irrigated agriculture, and we have mixed farming agriculture. Some of them are farming along the river banks and all of that, as well as irrigation, and whereby you create a kind of borehole, you dig a borehole or a pond in your farmland, and from time to time you fetch some water and begin to use to water your land. And this one is also very, very prevalent, especially within the northern region, because the rainfall duration is very short, and most of the crops grown there will also like need the rain and all of that. So also in animal husbandry, there are four main systems. Four main systems. We have the free range, we have the sedentary, we have the migratory, we have the intensive animal husbandry. All of these are the kind of animal husbandry practice. More tubers such as cassava, yam, cocoyam, and forest-related crops such as cocoa, palm tree, coconut, banana, pineapple, orange, mangoes are all grown in most of the forest regions. Some people who live around Oyo, around Undo regions and all of that, most of them, they farm cocoa plant and all of that, because these are more of forest zones. So you now see cocoa plantation, taking over hectares of land and all of that in those areas. However, in the savanna and the arid zones of the Sahel, Sudan, and Guinea vegetation, more cereals such as sorghum, maize, rice, beans, soya beans, guinea corn, vegetables including pepper, carrots, garden egg, potatoes, and some other vegetables are grown. The reason for adaptability of some of these crops in this region is because rainfall duration is very short. So they need short duration crops. Yes, they need short duration crops, such as something that 3 months. Of course, when you plant your maize, under 3 months, it's already mature. When you plant your rice, under 3 months, it's already mature. When you plant your beans, same thing. When you plant your soya beans, when you plant your guinea corn, and even vegetables, within shortest period of time, you would have harvested those things. However, if you choose to begin to plant something like yam that will take up to 8 months to mature, you plant something like cassava that will take up to 6 months. The least variety will take just about 6 months before you now realize that you may run into trouble, because there may be no enough rain, enough moisture that these plants can utilize to be able to do well. So a higher population of livestock is raised in savanna region because of the limiting effect of livestock disease and the high humidity of the southern vegetation zone. So also in the northern Nigeria, we have, especially this savanna region, we have very high livestock, which are kept in those areas because of the low humidity, which also reduces kind of some of the diseases and pests that attack some of these animals. So because of that, they are more, and of course, in those areas, there are more grasses, so to say, too. However, during the very dry season, they still bring their cattle towards the south, where they can have some more grasses to feed the animals. So dwarf goat, sheep, and ndama cattle are more abundant under sedentary conditions in the southern vegetation zone. Now, the recent population figures from the National Population Commission indicates that Nigeria is highly populated. Yes, of course, we are talking about another census taking place this year and anytime from now. However, the population of the country, as estimated, is about 220 million people for now. It's about 220 million people is a projection. However, maybe after the census, we'll be able to know whether there is a deviation from that, whether we have something lower or something higher than that. So now the use of resources depend on the population and the socio-economic structure. The resources available in Nigeria, their use depends on the socio-economic structure as well as the population of the area. So areas with high population have greater pressure on the utilization of both the terrestrial and the aquatic resources. Yes, if you go to a place like Lagos, Lagos has very high population. And of course, the land mass around that area is not so big. So there is so much pressure on any land and around the Lagos area and all of that. So you now realize under that condition, you hardly find a place where you can do agricultural work because already human population is already a factor that is affecting the areas there. So there is so much high competition for the utilization of terrestrial as well as aquatic resources in those areas. So the available resources, resource commodities that are utilized would in turn influence the economic activities of such community. Now, soil and the soil erosion. The abundance of water in a given area under natural condition is partly a function of soil and types of geological formation, so vegetation as well as other environmental factors. Now, this is because the ability of any soil to retain moisture and its water holding capacity, that means the extent and formation of pool of available surface water. However, the natural phenomenon are overshadowed by the effect of human activities. Yes, the effect of human activities affects a lot of things that take place in our environment with respect to the water or the moisture that attend to the earth and the effect on the soil in terms of creating erosion and other situations around the soil. Why some of the causes of erosion are limited, most have very wide distribution depending on the type. Soil erosion is of concern because it can devastate human settlement, agricultural ground, as well as recreational development. And this can disrupt and destroy industrial structures, as well as facilities, and severely upset the hydrologic regime of the soil. Because you can see the soil of Nigeria with the respective colors, respective different zones with different colors and all of that being used to separate them. However, in case you cannot see very clearly some of the keys down, you can just Google this on your phone. You'll be able to see some of these different soil types and where they occur in Nigeria soils. So the based on the FAO or this FAO generic classification system, the 4 major group of soil in Nigeria include the hydromorphic and organic soils developed on alluvial, marine, and fluvial-marine and along the coast and river floodplains. Now, we also have the regosols. We have the regosols and brown soils that are developed on the drift and continental sedimentary deposits in the northeastern part of the country. We have the ferrosols, the ochre soils, which has iron concretion, and some the oxysols that doesn't have. We have developed those that are developed essentially on sedimentary rocks, as well as the highly ferruginous tropical red and brown soils of the basement complex rock areas. So these are some of the soils of Nigeria. By conclusion, conclusion, Nigerian soil is rated from low to medium in productivity. However, the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations concluded that most of the country's soil would have medium to good productivity if the resource were to be managed properly. So thank you for listening. Thank you very much for listening. As I stop sharing now, I don't know if there is any question before we call it a day for today. I don't know. Any question? Can you just unmute yourself, ask your question? Paula, Renwa, and
I don't have a question, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Sophia Nu, right? Sophia Nu, can I hear from you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sophia Nu is here with you, sir.
Okay, okay. Is there any question?
No question, sir.
Okay, good. So please, of course, you know exam is starting. Exam is starting any moment from now or from this month, tellingly. So I encourage you to go back to my page on the eLearn, listen to the instructional videos on the eLearn, listen to also the past session recordings, listen to them. I have just 2 more classes to go, and hopefully before the end of next week, I will be through with them. So please endeavor, you attend to these classes, listen to them, read your course materials. Of course, you will do so well in the exam. So I wish you the very best and see you in a subsequent class. God bless you.